Today I'm making a pumpernickel style sourdough. Our ingredients are rye flour, wheat flour, bread flour, salt, molasses, strong coffee, and caraway seeds. Put into a bowl 75 grams of active starter. To that you're going to add 40 grams of molasses. And now it's time to add 385 grams of room temperature coffee. Now the coffee gives this bread kind of the bitter flavor that a pumpernickel has. Add 10 grams of salt, and now you're going to add 120 grams of rye flour, 190 grams of wheat flour, and 190 grams of bread flour. Now, I'm not a professional baker. This is my first time making this pumpernickel style loaf. I do love rye breads and I do love pumpernickel, but real pumpernickel bread is very dense, and that's not what I was looking for here. I'm just mixing the dough together here until it forms a cohesive ball. So I'm getting all of that flour worked in, and I'm going to let it hydrate for about 1 hour. I really like working with sourdoughs because it's a challenge. This was definitely a challenge for me because it's a recipe I haven't made before. It worked out beautifully. The taste was fantastic. It is a little more dense. That rye flour makes everything very sticky, so if you haven't baked with rye before, be aware of how sticky the dough is going to be. If I make it again, I would make it with just rye and whole wheat, and I would take the bread flour and make it all whole wheat because I prefer the flavor of whole wheat bread. My husband, on the other hand, would prefer if I went with all bread flour and rye. Now that your dough has had an hour to hydrate, go ahead and add 25 grams of oil and 5 to 10 grams of caraway seeds. Since this is the first time making it, I went more towards the 5, and if I had to do it over again, I really like that flavor. You could also add fennel seeds if you like those. I didn't have any of those on hand. I would add no more than 10 to 15 grams total. After it's rested for 30 minutes, you're going to do your first of 3 sets of stretch and folds. Make sure you wet your hands. Once again, very sticky dough. You are going to want either a bowl of water, or I have a spray bottle that I use to get my hands wet. And then I just work the dough around after the stretch and folds, put the lid back on, wait another 30 minutes, and do the whole thing over again. After you're done with your third and final set of stretch and folds, put the lid on and let your dough rise, and it should take anywhere from about 8 to 10 hours. Once you have noticed that your dough has risen by about 50%, it's time to pre-shape. So you're just going to add a little bit of tension and shape your dough, realizing that it is going to relax, and you're going to come back and do a final shape after that. So I apologize, I'm a little off screen here, but you can kind of get the feel for what I'm doing. Cover the pre-shaped dough up, let it sit for 20 minutes, come back and do your final shape and go ahead and put it. I'm putting mine in a banneton basket, but I have used just bowls with a flour tea towel as well. So I'm just adding a little bit of rye flour because this was such a sticky dough. I do not want it to stick to the cloth inside my Banneton basket, and I am adding a few extra caraway seeds. I actually think this would be a great loaf of bread in a bread pan as well. The next morning, put your Dutch oven inside your oven, turn on that oven to 450 degrees, and when it comes to temperature, take your loaf out of the refrigerator. And here you can see that I'm just cleaning off some of the rice flour. I don't particularly like that flavor or that kind of crunch that gets to it, so I'm just getting rid of some of that. Go ahead and score your bread, and then it's going to go into the oven, in the Dutch oven for 25 minutes. Take the lid off and bake it uncovered for an additional 20 minutes. I always take the temperature, so you will see me do that here at the end. That's my Dutch oven, and make sure that it comes up somewhere between 205 and 210 degrees. Now the hardest part of any bread baking experience, letting that bread cool. And because there is rye in here, you want to make sure you let it cool for a very long time. I did slice off the end. It did not rise as much as I would have wanted it to, but that could be because of the rye flour. I love the flavor of this bread. It makes great sandwiches. It was fantastic for toast in the morning, and I hope that you will give it a try. Thank you for joining me at White Shadow Fare. Please consider liking this video and subscribing.